Hey everybody, it is story time once again. Some of you have asked me about it, and I know that people have enjoyed reading stories in the past, or listening to stories rather. So, since my birthday is coming up this next week, I thought that I would give to you the 12 days of Christmas stories. So, from today through the 17th, I will read a Christmas story every day that you can enjoy. So, the first one we're going to read is A Gift for Evelyn. One thought tormented PJ on that snowy, moonlit Christmas Eve. His young wife Evelyn had agreed that they simply could not afford to buy each other gifts that year. But he wondered if he somehow might be able to scrimp a little more to save a dime here or a dollar there to economize enough to buy one small gift. PJ climbed aboard the Greyhound bus and settled into the front seat across from the driver. Even though it was several hours from home, he was thankful for a job in the midst of the 1930s depression. Lost in his anticipation of getting home, PJ was hardly aware of the others who filled the bus. He rubbed his hands together and wiggled his toes, trying to warm up from the negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. In Helena, Montana, the heater blew full blast. Miles of snow-covered mountains and meadows, hours of getting going and grinding to a stop at every hamlet crawled by uneventfully until early Christmas morning. When the bus should have been only an hour from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, the destination, PJ noticed the headlights dimming and the engine alternately losing and regaining power. Finally, the big bus sputtered and quit. It coasted to the edge of the road. The driver tried the starter, but the only response was a slow with obviously not enough power to turn over the engine. The driver got out with his flashlight and probed under the hood. Finally, he stepped back inside. He shivered and pulled the door closed behind him. "I'm afraid we've got a generator problem," he announced, "and the battery's dead." A wave of dread swept to the back of the bus. Silence hung in the air like the puffs of frozen breath PJ had seen escape the driver's lips in the moonlight. "There's only one thing I can think of that might work," the driver continued. "We're almost to the top of the pass. Then it's downhill for quite a spell." It sounded like he was trying hard to sound hopeful. "If everyone would push, maybe I can start the bus again as it coasts downhill." PJ thought the prospect of this motley crew of passengers pushing a bus uphill was pretty slim. But the alternative? Sit there and freeze. It wasn't very pretty. Young men, old men, and middle-aged men pulled coats tighter and fastened boots. Women of various ages and sizes tightened scarves and fastened everything that could be fastened to keep out the cold. About 20 passengers traipsed off the bus and crunched through the snow. They crowded behind and beside the bus and pushed for all they were worth. The bus didn't move. "Hold it," one bundled body hollered. "It'll never work unless we work together. On the count of 3, give her all you've got." "God, please send angels to help us push," PJ prayed silently. He had heard a series of deep breaths, and then 1, 2, 3. Along with the others, PJ leaned into the bus. For an instant, it sat there. He pushed harder. Then it moved ever so slightly. He pushed harder. It moved an inch. A foot. It was rolling. Slowly, the bus, with its puffing pushers, crawled up the snow-packed roadway. It crested the hill and started down the other side, picking up momentum. An older man dropped behind. Another slipped on the ice and stopped. The bus picked up more speed. A few more pushers stopped and panted in the cold. Faster and faster the bus went. PJ finally gave up. He closed his eyes and gasped in cold air. Around him, he heard others panting and the crunching of steps on snow, and finally, the music of the bus engine. PJ and a couple others walked back up the hill to make sure the stragglers were all together. They were. Together they hurried as only overwrapped, stiff-legged people can walk and slide downhill on a slick roadway. Then they piled aboard the bus, panting and laughing. "My folks will never believe this. We pushed a bus." The young man laughed from under his muffler. The pushers found their seats and loosened wraps enough to both sit and breathe. PJ heard snatches of conversations. Hey, where are you headed? I'm from Missoula, going home to Seattle. We're going to see our grandkids in Spokane. I've been riding since Minneapolis. I'm going to meet my girlfriend's folks. Been driving this route long? PJ asked the driver. The bus snaked slowly through the moonlight. The two men talked about their work, their families, Christmas memories, including Christmases when money was tight. When an oncoming car got close, the bus driver switched on dim headlights till it passed, then off went the lights again. Wow, a voice from several rows back hollered, look at those snow-laden evergreens glisten in the moonlight. Oohs and ahs skipped around the bus. Someone near the back broke into song, dashing through the snow. The whole bus was ringing by the time they got to Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells. They sang Silent Night and God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen and every other Christmas song that anyone could think of. The passengers and driver laughed. They talked some more and sang some more. No one seemed to notice that it was 2:30 Christmas morning, then 3 o'clock, then 3:30. And that with no heater, the bus was freezing, and that they were with people they'd never seen before and would probably never see again. About 4 o'clock in the morning, the bus pulled into Coeur d'Alene. It didn't seem like 2 hours, one passenger exclaimed. No, it sure didn't, a chorus responded. It only seemed like a few minutes. The passengers shook hands with the bus driver as they exited. Many thanked him. Great trip, others enthused. Inside the depot, there was handshaking and backslapping and embracing enough to put any family reunion to shame. One could hardly hear Merry Christmas hollers over Wish You the Best and We'll Never Forget This Christmas. PJ lingered a moment. He'd ridden with many of these folks for 10 or 12 hours, but every one of them was just a stranger until just 2 hours before. Until they'd worked together to solve a problem. Until they'd let down their reserve and just enjoyed each other's company. PJ grabbed his suitcase and stepped into the cold air. A thrill shivered up his spine. I do have a gift for Evelyn, he thought. As he walked the 3 blocks home, the idea took shape. Sometimes, when they disagreed, they were like strangers in their own home. But withdrawing didn't solve the problem. PJ planned his explanation for Christmas morning. He'd tell her about the bus trip. Then he'd say, like we agreed, I don't have a pretty box with a fancy ribbon, but I have a gift for you that will outlast anything I could buy. This Christmas, I'm giving you a commitment that whatever problem comes up at our house, I'll work with you to solve it. Together, we can push any bus. What a really nice story. A lot of buses come up in our lives, and we have to work together to push through them. I hope everyone is having a wonderful start to the Christmas season, and I will have another story for you tomorrow.